criticize a major network for doing their jobs, and I realize that Johnny Manziel is the most polarizing figure in sports right now, but you've got enough cameras on him already. Were we ever worried that you wouldn't be able to capture something with him? Did you have to announce that you have a special camera on him the entire time? I know I wasn't worried, like, oh my God, what if Johnny Manziel has 2 cups of water on the sideline? What am I going to do if I don't get to see that second cup? I wasn't too worried about it. And I don't think anybody else is either. So, you know what, CBS? Shame on you. And for the last one, and this one is a very serious thing, and this is a tragic story in itself. In Pennsylvania, there was a high school football game. Joey Kaminsky, who was a high school safety, got into a scrum, at which point the offensive lineman for the opposing team, a kid by the name of Josh Hartman, fell down amidst the scuffle, and this other kid, the safety, Joey Kaminsky, ripped off his helmet and started beating him with it. He hit him twice in the head with his own helmet while he was down. Luckily, and I'll say this right here, thank goodness there was no permanent injuries, and that the teenager who received the blows to the head only received some superficial scalp lacerations to the top of his head. No, nothing was needed. There was no concussion, no permanent injuries. But you have a kid in a high school scrum literally beating another kid with his own helmet. So far, there's been nothing in this kid's past to indicate that he's been a troublemaker or a violent person, but he is possibly facing misdemeanor or even felony charges. At the very least, this is an assault with the helmet. It could be considered assault with a weapon. The police haven't announced how they're going to be handling the situation yet. They're still doing their investigations. However, there are so many things wrong with the situation. We seem to have forgotten in this country that at the end of the day, sports are games. They are here for our recreation and our amusement. And at no point should it ever be condoned to succumb to violence. And this is why I am not a fan of car wrecks at NASCAR, why I'm not a fan of fighting in hockey. There is nothing that could ever happen in a sporting event that can justify hurting another person intentionally, especially physically trying to harm them with an object that could do real damage, like the plastic helmets. I don't know. I'm not going to be judge and jury on this kid. I don't know what the mitigating circumstances are. I don't know what this kid's history was, and I don't know what they plan on doing with him. But everybody, the coaches, the parents, the teachers, and the players themselves need to take a step back and analyze what their role in this sport is. This isn't a pro team, which it wouldn't even be justifiable then. But these aren't people making millions of dollars where their livelihoods are on the line. These are kids doing an extracurricular activity between doing their homework. So, for that entire situation, I hope we never have to see something like that again. Before we get to the Week 1 recap, the recap is brought to you by Phil's Sports Bar and Grill. If you're like me, then you're always on the lookout for a great place to watch the game. The best place I've found is Phil's Sports Bar and Grill, located on the corner of Prairie and Burlington in Brookfield, Illinois. Phil's features daily specials, 10 TVs, and complimentary Wi-Fi so you too can follow your fantasy leagues. And on top of all that, Phil's has a great atmosphere and sensational food. Check out Phil's Sports Bar and Grill today. As I said, we're coming up on the Week 1 recap, and I just must, again, toot my own horn, toot toot, that of my weekly picks, I was 13-3. Not bad at all. I don't think anybody saw the Jets upset of the Buccaneers. I mean, really? Did any of you really think that second round draft pick quarterback Geno Smith would lead the Jets to victory over the Bucs? And the only reason they got that victory is because the bonehead play by Levante David on a questionable call, hitting Geno Smith out of bounds, thus giving a 15-yard personal foul and putting the Jets within field goal range and the chance to win the game 18-17. But I gotta say, well, first of all, I don't believe in the Jets at all. I think they're going to get crushed next week by the Patriots, and that this victory had less to do with their tenacity and their cohesion as a team than the Buccaneers royally screwing the pooch. And speaking of the Buccaneers, shame on you. You're trying all offseason to tout yourselves as a playoff team that saying, watch out for the Buccaneers. We're better than people think. Josh Freeman's finally put it together now that he's got weapons like a Doug Martin and a Vincent Jackson. You lose 17-18 to the Jets. Shame on you. You're going to be bottom of the barrel. And Josh Smith, I'd be nervous if I were him. Or not Josh Smith, Josh Freeman. I apologize. Josh Freeman. He better watch his back because I doubt he's going to get his contract renewed next year. And if he does, it's going to be for substantially less than he thinks he's going to get. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucs brought in either a free agent quarterback or drafted another quarterback at a high rounds because obviously Josh Freeman isn't cutting it. When the team needed him, he did not produce. He put up mediocre stats. I believe it was 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And that touchdown wasn't a great touchdown, and that interception was a horrible interception. The fact is, his play cost his team that game. He did not control the clock, he did not hit open receivers, and he did not lead his team the way he should have against an inferior opponent. And Doug Martin, 65 yards on 25 carries. This is the all-out stud that people are drafting in the first round of their fantasy drafts. I said in my fantasy thing last week to watch out for Doug Martin because in 12 games he averaged 66 yards a game. In the remaining 4 games he averaged over 160 yards. So he ended up with great yards, but from a game-to-game standpoint, he wasn't that good. And again, here's what you get from Doug Martin, 65 yards, right on his pace. So, you know what? I don't feel bad about missing that game, but the Buccaneers, they're not getting my vote of confidence anytime soon. The other 2 games I missed were the Rams and Cardinals. Very close game, and I had the Cardinals over the Rams. It's always hard to bet against a home team, especially one that's on the upswing like the Rams. And I admit, I underestimated the effectiveness of their new offensive weapons. The Tavon Austin and Jared Cook additions to that team have been immediate successes. And you can see it on Sam Bradford's face when that game ended. He is so happy to have young, talented, special performers that he can distribute the ball to that he is probably going to have quietly a very big year for that team. And the Cardinals played great. They just let it get away from them in the end, and it was a brutal ending because what happened was the Rams busted through and sacked Carson Palmer, and he fumbled. A veteran quarterback in that situation has to know that the number one thing you have to do is secure the ball. No interceptions, no fumbles, no turnovers. At the very worst, you should have taken the sack, be forced to punt, let your defense go out there and do the job. The defense had been playing very well that game. Instead, he took the sack and fumbled, which set them up for the tying field goal, and later on, the Rams got the winning field goal. So, close game, fun to watch, very much the shootout that I thought it would be. Just one play turns it. And how often does that happen in the NFL? One play turns the whole thing around. And the other game I missed was the Redskins-Eagles. But that was a fun game to watch. And guess what? We saw the future in that game. I wrote an article about it this week, how the Eagles and Chip Kelly's offense are going to revolutionize the way football is played in the modern age. If you've got comments on this, give me a call. I'd like to hear your take on it, 630-534-0779. But I'm telling you that the way they run their offense is going to become a blueprint for coaches of the future. The change won't be immediate. There are a lot of coaches that are stuck in their ways and are stuck with their systems and will refuse to move them. But let me put it this way. You've got a league that is trying to emphasize safety and is trying to take the emphasis off of physicality. You still got coaches like Mike Tomlin who want that physical nature in training camp. But most people now are more concerned about keeping your guys healthy. That's why the starters rarely play in preseason. That's why now there's limited contact even in training camp. And leading up into training camp, it seems that all coaches are more tasked with teaching the playbook and making sure everybody on their team from first to third string can run every play in their playbook. And so in this week you saw a lot of teams were out of shape, including the Eagles. Eagles kind of gassed themselves there a little bit. But here's what you can do. Sure, you can't hit in practice as much anymore, but you can do cardio. you can get in shape so that when you do take that field, you are outworking, quite literally, your opponent. In that first half, the Eagles ran 53 plays. 53 plays. On an average game last year, there were around 75 plays. The Eagles were on pace for 106. And Chip Kelly yesterday came out and said the problem with the game is they should run their plays faster. Faster! Oh my God!
Holy cow!
Chip Kelly's going at a record pace for getting plays in a game. They ran 4 plays in the first minute of the game, and he wants to go faster. That is going to be a scary, scary team. I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs because I don't trust LaShawn McCoy and Michael Vick to stay healthy. Defensive coordinators will make their adjustments, and they're not just going to run roughshod over everybody. But I'm telling you, a lot of teams already run their versions of the hurry-up. Peyton Manning with the Broncos, Tom Brady with the Patriots. A lot of teams have their hurry-up offenses, and it's just the next step to just completely go gung-ho. There's too many upsides and too little downside to running your team that way. You prohibit the defense from substituting in guys. You prohibit specialists from coming down on third downs. And let's face it, it is more physically exerting to play defense than offense. On offense, you know where you want to go. You know where the ball is going. It's easier to be the runner when you know your destination than it is to run when you have to follow somebody else. Thereby, it is more exerting to play defense than it is offense. And there are going to be a lot of teams, and with the athleticism of a lot of the quarterbacks on these teams, are going to run this type of offense. I mean, just think of the young quarterbacks around this league and their athletic ability. Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, Andrew Luck, Terrell Pryor with the Raiders, even Alex Smith, who on the Chiefs, who outrushed Colin Kaepernick this week, have the athletic ability to pull off these type of systems. And more importantly than all of that, this type of offense is a punch in the mouth to your opponent. Did you see the Redskin players after the first half? They looked defeated. They looked beaten. They were tired. They were shell-shocked. And the only reason they scored those 20 points in the second half is because the Eagles began sitting on the lead. If the Eagles had the drive and the stamina to keep up that pressure, this would have been a 30-point rout. Because as well as RG3 played in the second half, and yes, it was rust. It wasn't injury. It was rust why he didn't play well in the first half. But they played well because they were able to take a little bit more time. The defense was a little bit more time on the field to give the offense a chance to plan. The Redskins are still going to be fine. I'm still predicting them to win the division. But that Eagles offense is the wave of the future. If you disagree with me, let me know. Give me a call, 630-534-0779, or send me a tweet at the CSBS. I've got it right in front of me, and I'll read anything you tweet to me. Within reason, of course. And some of the other storylines around the league. The Dolphins, they have a great opportunity this year. They've got a lot of young talent, and especially with the banged-up Patriots struggling against a inexperienced Bills team, the door is wide open for the Dolphins to step in, but they've got to have a better running attack. They had 20 rushing yards between 3 people. Lamar Miller, their feature back, had 10 rushing attempts, had 3 yards on 10 attempts. Daniel Thomas had 8 attempts for 14 yards, and Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback, had 5 attempts for 3 yards. They played the Browns, who are a good defensive team, and a lot of people don't realize how good that Browns defense is. But 20 rushing yards in the NFL is unacceptable. Remember the Raiders with Rich Gannon, the team that almost never ran during a game? At that time, he had set the record for passes in a season and passes in a game. Even they ran for more than 20 yards a game. So that is an inexcusable stat line, and they better figure out a way to get some more diversity in that offense, because quite frankly, they don't have a good enough passing offense to win on passing alone. Brian Hartline, I told you fantasy players to pick him up late, had another great game. Over 100 yards receiving, touchdown, 10 catches, great stat line. Mike Wallace, on the other hand, 1 catch for 15 yards. Their tight end was lost in preseason, so that's not a viable option anymore. And they've got a couple of good backs to throw to that can catch. Lamar Miller is a fast back who can catch. But you need the balance. Another cool thing from this weekend, 4 safeties. I have never seen a week where there have been 4 safeties.